Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj, and my own speculation is that Lord Narasimha has decided to bless us. Lord Narasimha appears tomorrow, but it's already started blessing us today with Maharaj's association. So the blessing continues from today throughout tomorrow. We are very much thankful and appreciative for you all to be here with us. And Maharaj, as always, we are more than thankful to have your association. So you may chant the Mangalacharam, and then you may begin the class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai.
Krishna
Hare
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pariprajakacharya Stotra Satasri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shamuna Mai Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Hare Krishna, my dear devotees.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So we read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 18. Param Padam Vaishnavam Amanati. Oh, well, usually we do the individual words first. So yes, please repeat after me. Param
Param
Padam
Padam
Vaishnavam
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 Atmananti
Amananti
Tad
Tat
Yan
Yan
Neti
Neti
Netiti
Netiti
Atad
Atam
Utsir Shava
Utsis Shava
Shava
Vishrijya
Vishriya
Doratmayam
Ra
Doratya
Ananya
Ananya
Sorida
Sorida
Rido Paguyarta
Rido
Rido
Padam
Padam
Pade
Ade
Pade
Ade
Param Padam Vaishnavam Atmananti Tad Yaneti Neti Yatad Utsisir Shaba Vishrijya Dorat Yam Anyam Sorida Rido Bhaguyar Hapadam Pade Pade Param Padam Vaishnavam Atmananti Tad Yaneti Neti Yatad Utsisir Shava Vishrijya Dorat Miyam Anya Sorida Rido Bhaguyar Hapadam Pade Pade. Please repeat. Param,
Param
Ram
the Supreme.
the Supreme
Padam,
Padam
situation.
Situation
Vaishnavam,
Vaishnavam
in relation with the personality of Godhead.
in relation
with the personality of Godhead.
Amananti,
Amananti.
do they know?
Do they know
Tat,
That.
that,
that
yat,
yet
Yeah.
which,
which
not iti,
not
Iti.
not this,
not this,
not iti,
not
Not
iti,
not this,
not this,
iti,
iti,
Iti.
thus,
thus,
atat,
Atat.
atat,
godless,
godless,
Others.
utsis rikshava,
utsis rikshava,
those who desire to avoid,
those who desire to avoid,
vishrija,
Vishya,
giving it up completely,
giving it up completely,
doratmyam,
Ratyam,
perplexities,
perplexities,
ananya,
Ananya,
absolutely,
absolutely,
Absolutely.
sorida,
Sureda,
in goodwill,
in goodwill,
rida upaguya,
Reda Opaguya,
taking them into his heart,
taking them into his heart,
arha,
Arha,
that which is only worshipable,
that which is only worshipable,
padam,
Padam,
lotus feet,
lotus feet,
pade pade,
Pade Pade,
at every moment.
at every moment.
Translation: the transcendentalists desire to avoid everything godless, for they know that supreme situation in which everything is related with the Supreme Lord Vishnu. Therefore, a pure devotee who is in absolute harmony with the Lord does not create perplexities, but worships the lotus feet of the Lord at every moment, taking them into his heart. Beautiful. Please repeat. The transcendentalists desire
The transcendentalist desire
to avoid everything godless,
to avoid everything godless,
for they know that supreme
for
situation
they know that
That supreme situation
in which everything is related with the Supreme Lord Vishnu.
in
which
which everything
everything is related with the Supreme Lord Vishnu.
Therefore, a pure devotee
Therefore, a pure devotee
who is in absolute harmony with the Lord
who
who
is
is in absolute harmony with the Lord
does not create perplexities,
does
does
not
not
create
create
perplexities,
but worships the lotus feet of the Lord
but
that
worships the lotus feet of the Lord
at every moment,
at every moment,
taking them into his heart.
taking them into his heart.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Bhagavad Gita, Madham, my abode, is mentioned several times. And according to the version of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, there exists the unlimited spiritual sky, wherein the planets are called Vaikunthas, or the abode of the personality of Godhead. So this purport reminds me of something that Srila Prabhupada said, which is that we will not say that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in only one purport, but we will say that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every purport. And he does so in this purport. So now let's go back to the verse in the purport. So yes, Vaikuntha, Kuntha means anxiety, and Vaikuntha means without anxiety. So the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky are without anxiety. In that sky, which is far, far beyond the material sky and its sevenfold coverings, yes, the material world is covered by 7 layers of the different elements. In that sky, which is far, far beyond the material sky and its sevenfold coverings, there is no need of the sun or the moon, nor is there necessity of electricity for illumination, because the planets are self-illuminating and more brilliant than the material suns. So here, Srila Prabhupada is paraphrasing a verse from the Bhagavad Gita, where he says there is no need of the sun or the moon for electricity. And if we consider Srila Prabhupada's purports, either directly or indirectly, he is referring to Shastra. And here, without saying so explicitly, he is referring to a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, which says that, that in the planets, in the spiritual sky, there is no need of sunlight or moonlight or even electricity. Pure devotees of the Lord are absolutely in harmony with the personality of Godhead. Or in other words, they always think of the Lord as their only dependable friend and well-wisher. So this statement, pure devotees of the Lord are absolutely in harmony with the Lord, with the personality of Godhead. Or in other words, they always think of the Lord as their only dependable friend and well-wisher. It reminds me of the definition of Saranagati, which is very instructive. And so I'll read that because it's really very important for all devotees to understand what surrender is and how to do it. So this verse is quoted in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, text 100. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam rakshishyatiti vishvaso gokshipre varanam tata atma nikshepakarpanye sadvida sharanagati. Translation. The 6 divisions of surrender are acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender, and humility. And Srila Prabhupada explains in his purport, quote, one who is fully surrendered is qualified with the following 6 characteristics. 1, the devotee has to accept everything that is favorable for the rendering of transcendental loving service to the Lord. 2, he must reject everything unfavorable to the Lord's service. This is also called renunciation. 3, a devotee must be firmly convinced that Krishna will give him protection. No one else can actually give one protection, and being firmly convinced of this is called faith. This kind of faith is different from the faith of an impersonalist who wants to merge into the Brahman effulgence in order to benefit by cessation of repeated birth and death. A devotee wants to remain always in the Lord's service. In this way, Krishna is merciful to his devotee and gives him all protection from the dangers found on the path of devotional service. 4, the devotee should accept Krishna as his supreme maintainer and master. He should not think that he is being protected by a demigod. He should depend only on Krishna, considering him the only protector. And we see from Lord Nrsingadev how he protected his devotee Prahlad. He should depend only on Krishna, considering him the only protector. The devotee must be firmly convinced that within the 3 worlds, he has no protector or maintainer other than Krishna. 5, self-surrender means remembering that one's activities and desires are not independent. The devotee is completely dependent on Krishna, and he acts and thinks as Krishna's desires. 6, the devotee is meek and humble. The Lord states in the Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishto matasmritir jnanam apohanam cha vedaischa sarvair aham eva vedyo vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. Unquote. Situated in everyone's heart, Krishna deals differently according to the living entity's position. The living entity's position is to be under the protection of the living entity's position is to be under the protection of either the illusory energy or under Krishna's personal protection. When a living entity is fully surrendered, he is under the direct protection of Krishna, and Krishna gives him all intelligence by which he can advance in spiritual realization. Yes, this is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita 10:10, where Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam Dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayantite. Those who are constantly engaged in my devotional service with love, to those who are constantly engaged in devotional service with love, I give them the intelligence by which they can come to me. So when a living entity is fully surrendered, he is under the direct protection of Krishna, and Krishna gives him all intelligence by which he can advance in spiritual realization. The non-devotee, however, being under the protection of the illusory energy, increasingly forgets his relationship with Krishna. Sometimes it is asked how Krishna causes one to forget. Krishna personally causes his devotee to forget material activities, and through the agency of Maya, Krishna causes the non-devotee to forget his devotional service to the Lord. This is called apohana. So, my dear devotees, this is a bit of an elaboration. Oh, I see. Wonderful. Yeah. So now we're finished with that part. And now we'll go back to today's verse and purport. Yeah, so pure devotees of the Lord are absolutely in harmony with the personality of Godhead, or in other words, they always think of the Lord as their only dependable friend and well-wisher, as exemplified in the 6 divisions of surrender. They do not care for any mundane creature up to the status of Brahma, the Lord of the universe. Only they can definitely have a clear vision of the Vaikuntha planets. Such pure devotees, being perfectly directed by the Supreme Lord, do not create any artificial perplexity in the matter of transcendental understanding by wasting time in discussing what is Brahman and what is non-Brahman, or Maya. Nor do they falsely think of themselves as one with the Lord, or argue that there is no existence of the Lord separately, or that there is no God at all, or that living beings are themselves God, or that when God incarnates, he assumes a material body. So here, Srila Prabhupada is elaborating on the idea that devotees have nothing to do with godlessness. These are different varieties of godlessness in different forms or shapes, and devotees avoid all of them. So, apart from the class of impersonalists or non-devotees, there are classes who pose themselves as devotees of the Lord, but at heart maintain the idea of salvation by becoming one with the impersonal Brahman. Yes, this is called by Srila Prabhupada as Chaitanya's path and Shankara's math. In other words, they follow Chaitanya's path, they follow the process of Bhakti Yoga, but they accept Shankara's math, which is 1 + 1 = 1, that we become one with the impersonal Brahman. So, yes, apart from the class of impersonalists or non-devotees, there are also classes who pose themselves as devotees of the Lord, that at heart maintain the idea of salvation by becoming one with the impersonal Brahman. Yes. Chaitanya's path with Shankara's math. They wrongly manufacture their own way of devotional service by open debauchery and mislead others who are simpletons or debauchees like themselves. All these non-devotees and debauchees are, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, duratmas, or crooked souls in the dress of Mahatmas, or great souls. Such non-devotees and debauchees are completely excluded from the list of transcendentalists by the presentation of this particular verse by Shukadev Goswami. So yes, Mahatmas, Mahatmanam Tamam Partham Daivim Prakritim Ashrita. Mahatmas are defined in the Bhagavad Gita by Lord Krishna. Mahatmanastu mam partham daivim prakritim ashrita. They are always under the shelter of the divine energy. And it's important to know who an actual Mahatma is, because as Srila Prabhupada says, there are Duratmas who pose themselves as Mahatmas. So the actual description or definition of Mahatma is given in Bhagavad Gita 9:13. Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashrita bhajantyananyam manaso yatva bhutadim avyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Once, when we were with Srila Prabhupada in Bombay, because there were complications with the Juhu land, and so Srila Prabhupada was staying in an apartment in Sea-Face Park as a guest of Kartikeya Mahadevya, who was a very good friend and supporter and devotee of Srila Prabhupada. And during that period, Srila Prabhupada would speak on the nectar of devotion. But if someone happened to hear that Srila Prabhupada was speaking and came upstairs to the apartment, Srila Prabhupada would change the level of discourse from the nectar of devotion to the Bhagavad Gita. So one time a prominent Hindu came up and he asked Srila Prabhupada that India is a land of Mahatmas. There are so many Mahatmas in India that there are so many problems. Why should India have so many problems in the presence of so many Mahatmas? And Srila Prabhupada replied, the reason that India has so many problems, the reason that you have so many problems is that you cannot distinguish who is a Mahatma and who is not a Mahatma. And then Srila Prabhupada went on to explain who is a Mahatma, as stated in this verse. Mahatma is also mentioned in another verse, Bahunam Janmanam Ante Gyanavam Mam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha, which means Bohanam Janmanam Ante, after many births and deaths, one who is wise surrenders to Krishna. Samahatma Sudurlabha, such a Mahatma is very rare. So that is Mahatma. And with all due respect, Srila Prabhupada was saying, directly or indirectly, that Mahatma Gandhi, with all due respect, is not a Mahatma by the definition given in the Bhagavad Gita by Sri Krishna. So let's go back to the verse and purport. So, the Vaikuntha planets are factually the supreme residential places called Param Padam. This reminds me of a beautiful verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, one of my favorites. The Sanskrit is beautiful, and the meaning is also beautiful. And I will recite that. Actually, we used to recite that every morning in the old Boston temple. I know it by heart, but still I'll get the proper translation. Yes. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-58. Samasritaye pada palavapavam Mahat padam punyaya somurare Pavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvi padam nate sham. I'll recite it again, it's so beautiful. Samasritaye pada palava pavam Mahat padam punyaya somurare Pavam buddhir vatsa padam param padam 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 yadvi padam nate sham. Yes. And yes, here's the translation. For those who have accepted the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Their goal is Param Padam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. And a more, I would say a more literal translation, or a more concise translation would be that, yes, for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord. Now this Mahat Padam has two meanings, as you can see in the synonyms. He's the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and he's also the shelter of the great souls, who are known as Mahatmas. So, yes, so for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and of the great souls, and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean of the material world shrinks and becomes just like the water contained in the puddle of a calf's hoofprint. Although there's danger at every step, they cross right over it. So it's beautiful. It's wonderful. So now we can go back to the verse and purport. Yes, that padam padam. Param padam. So the Vaikuntha planets are factually the supreme residential places called Param Padam. Yes, Param Padam, you had to be Padam, not Isha. The impersonal Brahmajyoti is also called the Param Padam due to its being the rays of the Vaikuntha planets, as the sun rays are the rays of the sun. In the Bhagavad Gita 14:27, it is clearly said that the impersonal Brahmajyoti rests on the person of the Lord. So yeah, that's also true. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Brahmano hi, yes, there it is, Brahmano hi pratistaham, amritasya vayasya cha, shashvatasya chadharmasya, sukhasya kanti kasya cha. Yes. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal, and is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness. So, yes, wonderful. Our hosts are really on top of the verses and providing them as required. In the Bhagavad Gita 14:27, it is clearly said that the impersonal Brahmajyoti rests on the person of the Lord. And because everything rests on the Brahmajyoti directly and indirectly, everything is generated from the Lord, everything rests on him, and after annihilation, everything is merged in him only. Therefore, nothing is independent of him. A pure devotee of the Lord no longer wastes valuable time in discriminating the Brahman from non-Brahman, because he knows perfectly well that the Lord Parabrahman, by his Brahman energy, is interwoven in everything, and thus everything is looked upon by a devotee as the property of the Lord. The devotee tries to engage everything in his service and does not create perplexities by falsely lording it over the creation of the Lord. He is so faithful that he engages himself as well as everything else in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So yes, this is the principle of Yukta Vairagya, which is very important in devotional service. And that Yukta Vairagya is discussed or defined by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. And I'll read that verse. And it is read with another verse that describes what we could call false renunciation. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1-255, Anasaktasya Vishayan, Anasaktasya Vishayan, that's the first condition, without being attached to the objects of the senses. Anasaktasya Vishayan, Yatarham Upayundritaha, Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe, Yuktam Vairagyam Uchate. When one is not attached to anything, but at the same time accepts anything in relation to Krishna, one is rightly situated above possessiveness. So yeah, that is Yukta Vairagya, or you could say appropriate renunciation. And then as opposed to that is false renunciation. Prapanchikataya buddhya hari sambandhi vastuna mumukshubhi parityago vairagyam falgu katayate. On the other hand, one who rejects everything without knowledge of its relationship to Krishna is not as complete in his renunciation. So yes, we should not reject things as material if they can be used in Krishna's service. And seeing their connection with Krishna and engaging them in Krishna's service is Yukta Vairagya, or appropriate renunciation. And that is a basic principle that as devotees, especially as followers of Srila Prabhupada, we follow, because Srila Prabhupada was most expert in Yukta Vairagya, using everything in Krishna's service. As he said about the dictaphone, that the person who invented the dictaphone never imagined that it would be used for dictating transcendental literature. But Srila Prabhupada used the dictaphone to do so. So yeah, he used anything and everything that he could to engage in devotional service and further the Krishna consciousness movement. So the devotee tries to engage everything in his service and does not create perplexities by falsely lording it over the creation of the Lord. He is so faithful that he engages himself as well as everything else in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In everything, the devotee sees the Lord, and he sees everything in the Lord. This is perfect Krishna consciousness. The specific disturbance created by a duratma, or crooked soul, is due to his maintaining that the transcendental form of the Lord is something material. So yes, we have Mahatmas and we have Duratmas, and the Duratmas create disturbances because they don't recognize the transcendental position of Krishna. They think that he has a material form. I mean, so many different varieties of misconceptions Duratmas have, but devotees have nothing to do with anything godless, including the misconceptions of the Duratmas. And they use every moment as far as possible in devotional service. In one talk in Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada said, if you've got time, chant Hare Krishna. Don't speak nonsense. Chant Hare Krishna. And that's what we should do. Be constantly engaged, by chanting, hearing, or engaging in one of the kinds of devotional service. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami enumerates 64 items of devotional service. And he says that of the 64, 5 are most potent, and that by even a slight association with any one of them, one can awaken dormant love for Krishna. And those 5 are Sadhu Sangha. Well, I think you know the meaning. But specifically, Sadhu Sangha means to associate with advanced devotees. But Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtana, Bhagavat Shravana, Mathura Vasa, and Murti Shraranvita Sevana. So Sadhu Sangha, associating with advanced devotees, Namakirtana, chanting the holy name, Bhagavat Shravana, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, Mathura Vas, residing in a holy place such as Mathura, Vrindavan, Mayapur, and Murti Shraranvita Sevana, serving the deity with faith and veneration. And even a slight performance of any one of these 5 will can awaken dormant love for Krishna. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Prabhupada, our whole parampara have given us a wonderful process, and we should adopt it fully with heart and soul. And as far as possible, always chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and be happy in Krishna consciousness. So now, my dear devotees, if any of you have any questions or comments, you can raise your hand, your physical hand or your virtual hand, and we will discuss further. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj, as always. Very, very beautiful. Well, I have a question, but we'll go to Bhakta Hassan first, and then I may ask my question. Bhakta Hassan, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Please kindly accept my humble respect, obeisances to your beautiful lotus feet. All glory to Gurudev, all glory to Srila Prabhupada, and all glory to the assembled devotees. Maharaj, my question is, on the other page, you were reading about Krishna. He causes devotees to forget about material and remember him. And in other hand, he caused non-devotees to forget their devotional service. So if Krishna himself caused non-devotees to forget their devotional service, what will become of them? Because I think Krishna, he loves us and he wants us all come back to him. So if he himself caused non-devotees to forget their devotional service, what will become of them? this will help them to become what will become of them if, since the Krishna himself is causing them to forget their devotional service? This is my question, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yes. I mean, Krishna fulfills the desires of every living entity. And so if a living entity wants to forget him, Krishna will fulfill his desire and upon him, arrange for him to forget him. But what hope do such people have? The hope they have is the association of devotees. If they can get the association of a devotee, the devotee will instruct the person what is his actual identity. He's not the body, but he's the soul within the body. And what is his function as a soul? Jive Swarupai Krishna Nityadas. The constitutional position of the living entity is he's the eternal servant of Krishna. And when that forgetful living entity is educated and enlightened by the grace of a devotee, then he can come to the path of devotional service and eventually go back home, back to Godhead, which is Krishna's desire, as you said.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. So that means if Krishna calls non-devotees to forget their devotional service and they have association with devotees, the Krishna can still save them.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the question, and Maharaj, thank you for the answer. Dear devotees, if anyone has something to say, question to ask, realizations to share, please you may do so. Shimavara Prabhu, please you may unmute.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Kindly forgive me. I may not be able to.
Turn on your camera. Okay.
Yes, to put on my camera because of where I am.
Okay.
Maharaj, please, I want a clarification on this point that the Nitya Siddhas can become conditioned souls, and that just the same way conditioned soul can become Nitya Siddha. Is this true? Please, Maharaj, you can clarify for us.
Yeah, Nitya Siddha means eternally perfect. And one who is Nitya Siddha will not become a conditioned soul, but a conditioned soul can become Siddha, perfect, by the practice of Bhakti Yoga and the mercy of Guru and Krishna. But Nitya Siddha, by definition, is eternally perfect, eternally liberated, and will not become a conditioned soul. A Nitya Siddha may come into the material world and preach, but he's never, or she is never conditioned.
Thank you, Maharaj. Very grateful. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shimavara Prabhu. Anyone else with any question, comment? Champa Kalata Devi, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for such a wonderful class. I appreciate it. It was very nice to hear. Please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, I have a
Nice to see
Maharaj.
you.
Sorry, Maharaj.
I said, nice to
Um,
see you. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, I have a question that I've heard that at the time of initiation, the Guru takes away all the karma, like millions and millions of birth of time, whatever sins we have accumulated, the spiritual master takes away all that. And devotional service has the power to burn up all the sinful reactions. So I always wonder, once the devotee takes initiation, why does he still suffer, maybe from health situations, maybe from material problems, or so many things even after taking initiation?
Well, what you said is true at the time of initiation. The spiritual master accepts the karma of the disciple. But still, even after initiation, the disciple will suffer. And Srila Prabhupada has explained this phenomenon very nicely. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Saranam Vraja Tam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Matsutra. If you surrender to Krishna, Krishna will free you from all sinful reactions. And Srila Prabhupada also explains that the spiritual master is the representative of Krishna. And so when a disciple surrenders to the spiritual master, on behalf of Krishna, accepts the sinful reactions. But, as Srila Prabhupada further elaborates, the sinful reactions do not exactly disappear. But as Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna holds those sinful reactions in reserve. And then he releases the sinful reactions in such a way and at such a time that they will benefit the disciple the most. So, of course, even after initiation, devotees suffer. But they also take that suffering as Krishna's mercy, that it has been minimized by Krishna's grace. There's some very good verses and purports on the subject, and the actual verse is in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, this is good. Yeah. But the verse I was going to quote, and this is cited by Srila Prabhupada in the Nectar of Devotion under the item to always expecting the Lord's mercy. And here's the verse. It's Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. Lord Brahma's prayers to Lord Krishna. Tate nukampam susamikshamano Bunjana evatmakritam vipakam Hridvagvapurvir vidadam namaste Jivetayo muktipade sadayabhak. And in the Nectar Devotion, Srila Prabhupada says this should be the guide of all devotees. Translation. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So, there's a beautiful purport to this. In fact, maybe I'll read it because it really addresses your point. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. So, it's really a beautiful purport. Srila Sridhar Swami explains in his commentary that just as a legitimate son has simply to remain alive to gain an inheritance from his father, one who simply remains alive in Krishna consciousness, following the regulative principles of Bhakti Yoga, automatically becomes eligible to receive the mercy of the personality of Godhead. In other words, he will be promoted to the kingdom of God. The word susamikshamana indicates that a devotee earnestly awaits the mercy of the Supreme Lord, even while suffering the painful effects of previous sinful activities. Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. As we discussed, sarvadharman prityaja, amekam saranam raja, aham tvam sarvapapebhyo mokshayisyami matsuchaha. However, because in his mind, a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord. And therefore, the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service, until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home back to Godhead. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. Therefore, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardship a small price to pay for gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated here by the words Daya Bhak. Just as one cannot approach the sun without becoming fire, one cannot approach the Supreme Pure Lord Krishna, without undergoing a rigid purificatory process, which may appear like suffering, but which is in fact a curative treatment administered by the personal hand of the Lord. Sri Krishna Bhagavan Ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Maharaj, it's very clear, very clear. Thank you so much. I always wonder this, and especially when little bit health problem comes, something, then I sometimes feel the japa or maintaining sadhana becomes so difficult when health is not well. Right now, my husband is not well. He has some health issue going on. But then I always wonder that everybody is performing devotional service, doing something, then why suffering? But this is a perfect
Yes.
answer, Maharaj.
Yes. It's also
And,
the Lord's mercy. Yeah, it's also the Lord's mercy.
Yes. Thank you so much, Maharaj. I'm very grateful to you. And Maharaj, we have never taken your darshan in person ever. So we are hoping that we can make it to Sadhu Sangha this time, if my husband's health is okay. We really are coming there to take your darshan in person.
I hope you can make it. I love to meet you there in person.
Yes, yes, Maharaj. We always see you giving class from this settlement, and you have a beautiful picture with His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj behind.
Yes.
And we are actually his disciples. So my husband and me, we both are very eagerly looking forward that one day, hopefully on Sadhu Sangha, we can take your darshan.
Wonderful. Beautiful.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hi. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Maharaj, is that okay if I ask one more question, if it's not getting late?
It's fine with me.
It's okay. Maharaj, I chant my japa. I know the importance of chanting, but I feel I don't have any taste for japa. I try so many times to hear my chanting, but majority of time my mind goes away. I really don't focus on the hearing. And waking up 3:30, 4:30 is very out of question for me. I've tried many times, it doesn't work out, but close to 6 I'm up, and I try to chant at least before 7:15. I finish my 10 rounds, and then after children go to school, then rest 5-6 rounds I cover. But I feel I have no taste for chanting. I just chant because I know I must chant, I have to chant. And yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, the first thing, I mean, I don't know the reason, but it would definitely help if you could get up earlier. Early. Srila Prabhupada also used to quote Benjamin Franklin, early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. So, and definitely chanting early in the morning during the Brahma Muhurta hours is very favorable for spiritual practices. And even otherwise, according to Ayurveda, one should not sleep through sunrise. One should not sleep through that sandhya, because if one does, one becomes influenced by tamagun, by the mode of ignorance. Of course, by chanting, you can work to dispel the influence of tamagun. But yeah, it's considered very, inauspicious to sleep through sunrise with that whole sandhya around sunrise. And yeah, I mean, Srila Rupa Goswami and Upadeshamrita gives the example that someone who's suffering from jaundice cannot taste does not taste sweet things as being sweet, but he tastes them as being bitter. I had jaundice in India, and it's true. But the Ayurvedic cure for jaundice is rock candy. So one takes it, even though it tastes bitter, as a medicine. But then as one regains one's health, that bitter rock candy, which is actually sweet, becomes sweeter and sweeter. And then when one is completely cured of that disease of avidya ignorance, then one can taste the rock candy as it is, which is sweet like nectar. So in the same way, we take the medicine of chanting, even if it's bitter, but eventually, the chanting will have its effect, and our jaundice, our avidya will be removed, and we'll be able to relish the chanting as it is, which is sweet like nectar. So you have to practice. Practice makes perfect. Srila Prabhupada said practice makes perfect even in spiritual life. And there's some very good books about japa. Harijan Prabhu has written a book called Japa. And, I think, and His Holiness Sachinandan Swami has also written books. And I think those books could help you. But as Harijan Prabhu says about the mind wandering, it's a battle, but that battle must be fought. You can't just surrender to the mind and let it go all over the place. Yeah, it's a battle, but that battle must be fought.
Sure, Maharaj. Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it for your association. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for the answers. I just wanted to bring to your attention, Maharaj, and devotees on the forum, that we have His Holiness Bhakti Damodara Maharaj here.
Oh.
Yes. Maharaj, if you have something to share, please, you may unmute and do so. Hare Krishna.
Humble obeisances to Holiness.
Hi. Nice to see you.
Tomorrow is on the Singhadev appearance here, so maybe you would like to help us. And what should be our mood, our consciousness toward on the Singhadev tomorrow, so we can have his protection?
Oh, yeah. It's a very auspicious day. Yeah, well, we should, earlier we discussed Saranagati, the 6 divisions of surrender. And one of the items is to think of the Lord as one's protector and that no one else can protect him. And certainly Lord Nrsimhadev is our protector. And of course, Prahlad Maharaj has spoken very beautiful prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev, as described in the 7th canto. And also in the 5th canto, there's a description of different planets. And there's also there's a description of the planet where Prahlad and other devotees offer prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev. And Prahlad prays that, may all envious persons be pacified. It's really a wonderful prayer. And and also, we also may have some little demon-like tendencies in our hearts. So we can pray to Lord Nrsimhadev to remove those anarthas and, aparadhas. I'm sure you could give some good advice yourself. You're eminently qualified.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Thank you for blessing us with your presence.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Anyone else with any question? Comment? Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I have a question, one question, and one request. And I think I will first go with the question. And the question is, I understand that from the scriptures, whenever one sees a devotee, he should become very happy. When you see a devotee and you do not become happy, it's an offense. And there are many devotees that I'm fortunate to have come across, but there are three great personalities that I love to see, I love to hear them, I love to have the association, yet I do not want to see them. And there are a few many, but primarily three people. One is yourself, Maharaj. Second is Bhakti Charu Maharaj. And third is Sharadnath Maharaj. Because I love to hear from all three of you. But each time I see you, each time I hear you, you remind me of my Gurudev. And it's very difficult. And as such, I am torn between seeing you, hearing from you, having your association. Like Maharaj, I strongly believe, I love to hear from you, I love to see you. But it's also difficult because whenever I hear,
Maharaj, do you understand his question?
I do.
Yeah, he said when he hear you, you remind him of his guru, his name is Bhakti Swami. So he remember he miss his guru when he hear you. Because of that, he doesn't want to listen to you sometimes. Yes. So you can give an answer to that, what he should do.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Maharaj.
Yeah. Well, it's natural, to feel separation from your Guru Maharaj and miss him. But you also have to learn to be happy in separation. As Srila Prabhupada wrote in his dedication to his Srimad Bhagavatam, now dedicated to His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, my eternal spiritual master. He lives forever by his divine instructions, and the follower lives with him. So by following your Guru Maharaj's instructions, His Holiness Bhaktitirtha Swami Maharaj's instructions, you should feel his presence. and experience his reciprocation. Yeah, I wrote a book called Many Moons. Reflections on Departed Vaishnavas. And one is His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj. And there are many nice, let's say, remembrances of him and appreciations of him. And I think, one, he would want you to be happy, and two, he would want you to feel comfortable with his God brothers, dear God brothers. Be happy to have their association, which you are. I mean, you are, but there's this little bit of complication added to it. I'll pray that will go away, so you can, embrace the association fully and feel your Guru Maharaj's presence at the same time.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. I'm happy you're going to be praying for me, because my Gurudev left the planet in 2005. Up until 2006, I felt like nothing happened. And then from 2006 to 2020, so 14 years, I could not read his books. I could not listen to his tapes.
Oh.
And I called my dear most big God brothers, His Holiness Bhakti Damodara Maharaj, His Grace Srivasvanachari, and I told them my predicament, because I need to hear my Gurudev. But they prayed for me, which helped. Their prayers helped me a lot. That now I'm able to hear his tapes, I'm able to watch his videos. But when I see and hear people like your humble self, the love you give out, it reminds me so much of my Gurudev, and that is why I was asking that question. And I was actually going to request from you also for prayers. And thank you, you already going to be praying for me. But
Yes.
there is a second thing I wanted to say, which is a request, because I chanced upon your Juhu project, where Srila Prabhupada was saying that he actually prayed to Krishna, that Krishna, you have been brought here, you've established here. If we lose this land and you are no more here, it will become like a disgrace. Not exactly, I'm just paraphrasing.
Yeah, he said it would be an insult.
It will be an insult. Thank you, Maharaj. It will be an insult. Yes, thank you. And so he said he prayed, and Krishna answered his prayers. So I'm also humbly, on behalf of few of my God brothers, we're requesting you. We have a similar situation of ISKCON land in Ghana, where somebody wants to encroach on the land, but we are fighting to have it back in the name of ISKCON, but it's now with the court. So we're requesting, definitely ISKCON is going to win, but we're requesting your prayers for a speed up in the ruling, so that it will become clearly evident that, yes, this is our property, so that Krishna will not be evicted from the property. So this is my other request. Thank
Wow.
you. All right.
I'll certainly pray. That's very much in the line of the Juhu episode. Yeah, I'll definitely pray. Hare Krishna.
Since there is a question here, there is a question in the chat room, Maharaj, from Malati Devi. She says, I have a reflection and a question in relation with, oh my God, with Sahadev Prabhu's question, that seeing your holiness, I am reminded of my Guru Maharaj, right? It does so to us too. It says it does to them too. But my feelings are different, that when you see your divine grace, I see Guru Maharaj and feel much more blissful and feel his presence. So please let us know, Guru Maharaj, this could be one way of seeing. Well, I think it's actually to me. Thank you, Malati Devi. Continue to pray for me. I'm not alone though, because there are lots of my God brothers and God sisters who have the same feeling with certain God brothers, God sisters to our Gurudev, those who were like very close to him. When we see them, we get reminded of our Gurudev, and it's so sweet. And at the same time, when you are reminded, it brings about something. So thank you, Malati Devi, and thank you, Maharaj, as always.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Happy to
So
be
I believe we may bring this to a close. And Maharaj, we thank you enough for your fatherly and transcendental love and affection you have for us all the time, coming to speak to us, encouraging us and guiding us.
Right.
So if anybody, especially like the senior devotees there, if somebody wants to say something before we bring this to a final close, you may do that. Otherwise, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to unmute, and then we all chant, excuse me, Hare Krishna Mahamantra to express our appreciation for Maharaj's presence and guidance and love. Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Krishna, Hare
Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama
Hare Hare. Panchakapatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavane Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Hare Krishna. Jai, Jai.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Maharaj is not. Maharaj, can you unmute yourself, please? Okay, it's muted. Are you saying something?
Yeah. I mean, some devotees were doing it on their own, but if we're going to end now, I suggest we conclude with Vaishnava Pranam.
Okay.
Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees who can fulfill the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls.
Hi,
Panchakapatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha
Nam
patitanam pavane
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Namo Namaha.
Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Krishna Africa ki jai.
Jai.
All glories to His Holiness Giriraj Swami Maharaj Ki.
Jai.
Jai.